Hi, here we are again in my basement. Today we are going to talk about food. Shows about food, shows about making food, and what we're all doing right now, which is kind of forcibly rediscovering the joys of cooking at home.
Don't waste your ideas. Don't waste your passion.
You may have noticed it's getting tough to find flour out there. A lot of people making bread, a lot of recipes being shared online. Well, if you're looking for inspiration, here is my favorite food shows. Let's take a look.
I used to cook with Roy all the time when he was training me, and then the movie came out and it all ended.
It's like being dumb.
It really was. It was like, when are we cooking again?
The Chef Show, for me, is really about the friendship between Jon Favreau and Roy Choi.
How do you know when that's done?
I'm looking at the cheese, I'm looking at the bottom.
Favreau is a remarkably accomplished producer, director, and actor. He's responsible for movies like Elf and the new Lion King, producing the new Star Wars series Mandalorian. Now, a few years ago, Favreau wanted to make a movie called Chef. Chef had him playing a chef on camera, and he wanted to be able to do that in a way that when other chefs watched him, they didn't cringe. So he hired a gentleman named Roy Choi.
Have all your vegetables and brines going, and then
Roy was responsible for this fleet of, I think they were taco trucks
What could be bad about bringing delicious food to your life?
in Los Angeles. And so Roy became Jon Favreau's guru and showed him the tricks of the trade, showed him how to make that grilled cheese that is just perfect with that amazing, crunchy, gooey bite.
I saw you and Chef making that grilled cheese sandwich. That's why I'm here. That's crazy.
And taught him knife skills, taught him all these wonderful things. Now, then they went on to make this film called Chef.
There are chefs that cook food that they believe in.
And it was nice.
I get to touch people's lives with what I do, and I love it. And I want to share this with you.
It was fine. A nice little father-son road movie. But even better than the movie was the relationship that was created between Roy and Jon. And it feels like this show is just an excuse for them to keep meeting and cooking and talking and carousing.
So much of our culture lives in our food. And if you ate something growing up and you have a taste for it, you seek it out, that's going to keep that alive.
And that's kind of what the Chef Show is. Each episode has Roy and Jon hanging out, sometimes in a studio, sometimes in the restaurant of another chef, sometimes with a celebrity guest or two.
This is a confusing recipe, guys. No one's going to be able to cook this.
And just making a series of dishes. And it will show you briefly some of the ingredients of what they're making, but really it's about the relationship between Jon Favreau and Roy Choi, in that Favreau, he's trying to grab every little iota of knowledge that you have, and that's what you want. Someone who is an enthusiast, someone who is hungry for knowledge, and that kind of appetite to learn is infectious. What do you do when you're sitting there and slicing onions and prepping the chicken and just doing the grueling grunt work of being in the kitchen? You talk, you share stories, you compare things, and that's where you hear these little anecdotes.
I just remember going to like one of the midnight shows and seeing a single mother with her baby in a carriage in the aisle, just going like this while she was watching it. I said, I guess we hit the right quadrants for this.
We have 4 quadrants.
The tongues are loosened and people just chat. Sometimes at the end of the episode, there's these little stories, and sometimes, for me, those are the best bits.
Hey, Tom, that looks like your first oyster right there.
That one right there, that particular one.
And then you just slurp it down. Yeah.
Oh, really good.
Ugly Delicious.
Getting hungry?
Ugly Delicious is another show which is also on Netflix, and it revolves around David Chang.
I've just reached a point where I'm okay making really ugly food.
David Chang is a very successful restaurateur, the man who founded the Momofuku chain of restaurants. And I think Ugly Delicious is really his philosophy of food. This is a guy who's gone on this journey, this Korean-American chef. He had the classical training. He created this string of restaurants, these decadent, delicious bowls of ramen noodles. He's got nothing to prove now, but the kind of food he's interested in, the philosophy of ugly delicious is not serving up a dish that is Instagrammable, that you're going to see that and go, oh, well, that's gorgeous and I need to share this. No, he wants to give you the stew where you lick the bowl.
If you try to respect these cultures, you can figure out how to merge them together without bastardizing any of it.
He wants to give you the plate of rice where you're hunting after every kernel with those chopsticks because it's so delicious and so delectable. And as a host, as our guide, I mean, Chang has this sense of passion, but he's also on his own journey.
How do I tell someone to be more open? And I think for me, it's like, how do you do it with food?
Wow, I like that. That's great.
He's Korean American, and now I think what's interesting, especially with the new season, is he's kind of interrogating where he came from and where he's going. And what I've noticed is as he gets older, the episodes are getting a little more interesting.
It's when you eat a dish that reminds you of a dish cooked by your mom.
You remember too much.
You're gonna get your barbecue episode, you're gonna get your New Orleans episodes, and it has those, and those are great. But there's also, I think, really personal ones, where David Chang has an episode of where he becomes a father.
I'm calling you to tell you that Grace is pregnant, and we're having a baby.
I cannot wait for you to have your own kids.
It's gonna be easy. There's a moment of reckoning right now between old Dave Chang and dad Dave Chang.
And what that's going to mean for him and how he balances kind of his chef lifestyle with becoming a dad. Similarly, there's an episode about cooking for kids.
I'm trying to think, what does a third grader want to eat?
And just how that's its own challenge. But to me, the keystone of Ugly Delicious, the best one to watch, Season 1, Episode 3, and it is called Home Cooking.
This is really just a peasant dish of like peppers, potatoes, and fish.
And it's exactly that.
She's just showing me how to make this because it's an easy dish to make for the baby.
Chang is really, I think, exploring what a lot of us are exploring, whether we want to or not, the value of the communal experience of cooking for each other.
If you try to respect these cultures, you can figure out how to merge them together.
And he says at one point, it has less to do with perfect than intent. The intent is what's perfect.
It almost brings cooking back to why you cared about it to begin with.
That's what our humanity needs to invest in, is more connection.
Without community, a restaurant is just what? Eating. Cheers.
And I don't know about you, I'm spending a lot of time with my family now, and we're cooking for each other. We're enjoying those meals together. We can't go anywhere else because we're not supposed to go anywhere else. But Chang captures that feeling of, he was recently speaking on Instagram and he put it perfectly. It's about nourishing. We are trying to nourish each other. And that, at its heart, is what Ugly Delicious is about.
Viet Cajun crawfish.
Chinese American braised tofu.
These are tendons from deer's feet. Do you want a napkin?
If you're looking for something that might actually be instructive, might actually help you be a better chef or a better cook, or just make better meals while we're at home, well, let's move on to Instagram.
Quarai, cooking lessons in quarantine.
Hi everyone, we're here at Kitchen Quarantine.
Welcome to the Good Friday Easter edition of Chef Dev at Home.
Every night now, Instagram is this live streaming party. There are DJs spinning, there are celebrities broadcasting from their couches, and there's a lot of chefs. And one of those chefs is Antonio Porowski.
And then when you add tomato paste, which I love tomato paste,
he's created a new thing on his Instagram channel, which you can find just as Antoni, and it's Quarai, and it's quarantine cooking. And it's just him in his kitchen making stuff.
I love bitter greens.
Giving suggestions.
And if you don't have good balsamic and you just have shitty balsamic, use shitty balsamic. Who cares?
And giving us ideas of what we can do with what we have. So this isn't like, aspirational gourmet cooking. This is, you have some stock and a chicken. What are you gonna do? How do we elevate that a little? Maybe you add some kale. How about those beans?
I tore them into like nice big pieces like this. Beautiful, purpley, almost red.
And just some little tips so that you can make something that's delicious and achievable, and you don't hopefully have to leave the house to finish it off. And Anthony and a lot of these chefs, I mean, what I like about it, like, I enjoy watching a show with recipes as much as the next guy, but there's an authenticity to these Instagram chefs right now.
Steamy, nice, beautiful little rosé sauce, little strands of parm. I love how they swim and they dance. It's like bonito flakes.
It's unfussy. You don't have all the perfect ingredients. You don't have it all in the little bowls all laid out, ready to go. They're just showing us how it comes together and how we can pull it off. And because it's Instagram, it's interactive. So you get, people commenting, asking questions, and they're going back and forth. Chef Devin.
I'm going to try and do this in one continuous shot.
Devin Rajkumar is a Canadian who's right now in his parents' place in Richmond Hill.
Before we even pick up the knife, the cutting board's very important. The cutting board needs to be secure, so I'm always going to have a wet rag underneath.
He's doing the same thing, going online, sharing tips, sharing recipes every night. I think the first one he did was craft dinner with truffles.
I have the craft dinner already cooked off here, and I have that beautiful cheese mixture over here.
I mean, like the Canadian classic, but elevated.
An aggressive amount of black Perigord truffle. We make it rain on top. And we keep going until we cannot see the bottom. And we put 40 to 50 bucks worth of truffle onto this dish.
Lots of comfort food. Like, that's what it's about. We want something that's going to make us feel good right now.
Because if now is not the time to spoil yourself in isolation, then I don't know what is the best time. Black truffle KD.
And one more if you want something that's a little more, a little more flair, let's say.
We're gonna make a tiramisu. It's a surprise for Giorgio Locatelli.
Different than your typical experience.
It's like in the palate.
Massimo Bottura.
Coconut, a little bit of rum, and mascarpone. That's amazing.
This is chef, restaurateur. He runs a restaurant that's gotten the 3-star Michelin rating, like one of the best places in the world. Well, he's at home in Italy with his family, with his wife, with his kids and all that, and every night going online, sharing recipes, and it is just chaos.
Because the only thing we needed was ice cream, and finally we can make ice cream at home.
Oh, Charlie.
It's him and his wife, and people are talking and going back and forth.
What is more entertaining than your passion?
And no more excuses. It's not just about food waste.
In the case of Massimo, I'm not quite sure how much I learned, but it's just making me feel better.
Here we go.
Okay. Macaroni, pasticcio di Martino già fatto.
It's the charming accent, it's the atmosphere, it's the smiles.
So everyone,
Carpigiani,
grazie. See you all tonight.
Maybe you'll learn something, or maybe it'll just help you stay inside and stay safe. Those are my food-related suggestions. I hope they make for delicious treats.